All right, so here is a video overview of our July dashboard of the month. We actually have two dashboards this month because they do go hand in hand in how you can use them. But the whole idea behind this video is not to necessarily show you how to build these gauges, as you can find that here in the keys as far as the gauge configurations, but show you more about the strategy behind the dashboards and why they work for Brad at IT Management Associates. So first off, these dashboards were submitted by Brad. They're out of Australia. Uh, Brad did mention that these dashboards are part of 4 dashboards that they have on rotation up around the displays in their office, and these directly face their technician teams. And the objective of these 4 dashboards is to provide up-to-date information on tickets, hours entered, SLA statistics, and some Smileback summary information. Brad cites these dashboards as helping the team stay on top of different ticket queues. As you can see up at the top here, we have 3 different queues being monitored specifically on both dashboards. And outside of just monitoring those ticket queues, it helps the team maintain service levels, make sure everyone's entering their time on time, and it also engages in a little bit of friendly competition to not only get the most positive feedback from clients, but simple things like making sure time's entered and tickets are being resolved. So a quick overview here, you can see there are overlapping gauges from dashboard to dashboard. So the whole idea here is as these are on rotation, either every 30 seconds or 60 seconds, there are key KPIs that you want the team keeping focused on. So the tickets that are unassigned, and this way you have a quick summary as to what those are. If these are on display around the office, it's not necessarily ideal to have to come in and click in drill down. Here you can really quickly see any tickets that are in an unassigned status, get a little summary of what's going on in these tickets, and perhaps highlight certain types of tickets either coming from a certain board like they are in this example, or maybe you want to come into this gauge and add fields for priorities or something like that in order to highlight other avenues of a ticket that you want the team focused in on. These individuals, as I said, are just carbon copies of each other, but they are set up for different boards. So Brad's keeping track of his technical services board, his managed service board, and his managed service agreement tickets. He has gone into each of these gauges, and I think this is a great tip for dashboards, especially around the office, is don't rely on the gauge title. Put something to notify the team what the gauge is actually reporting here. Depending on the size of your displays, sometimes the titles can get chopped off and they're not fully displayed, as you can see here. But you can see what the gauge is representing if you take advantage of the label within the gauge builder. So one other thing to notice here is that all of these gauges are not set up necessarily with a color threshold based off the amount of tickets in the gauge. It's meant more to show differentiating ticket queues. So this is always yellow from technical services, managed services always green, etc. And I think this does a really good job of leveraging thresholds outside of just the normal red means bad, green means good, and instead breaks up the data and makes it more appealing to the eye. Then there's also some mixed KPIs the team wants to track and stay on top of, like what is our last week's worth of average time before tickets are resolved and average time to acknowledgement. So this is just a good thing to make sure the team keeps an eye on, and over time, obviously, the team knows where they should be based off these metrics, and if this ever looks high or low, it's a really good indication to jump in and begin doing some assessment. So one last thing here, the hours to day by engineer. This one just has a non-default color threshold set up around the billing status. So I think honestly the blue, yellow, green looks really nice, and again it's kind of soft to the eye, but again you can play around with that. Obviously a personal preference. And then we've also added a goal line here to basically tell the techs we expect you to work 8 hours a week, and you can see how the techs are progressing towards that target throughout the day. And then one last thing here is you can always filter in or out certain work roles or work types. This right now is just a sum of all hours, but obviously you can filter out certain hours as well. Moving on to dashboard 2, again, there's a lot of overlap here because he does want everyone focused in on unassigned tickets, tickets from certain queues, whether or not there's tickets that are waiting because a customer has responded. And this is set up off of, from ConnectWise, the customer responded field. If you're an auto task, or maybe you don't have, maybe you're not leveraging this field within ConnectWise, you can also throw a status up there and maybe looking at statuses as customer responded, or maybe there's a custom status that you use that maybe has more benefit to you on a dashboard like this. Urgent are just tickets in a priority 1 status. Maybe it's a custom status again that you want certain types of tickets focused in on. Then it's always nice to have a count of new tickets. You can see between 1 and 2, it's the data here in this middle section is the same, right? We're looking at kill rate or open versus closed today. This is the raw data, tickets open, tickets closed, and this is the calculation. So it's nice to have it both ways. And then lastly at the bottom here is that motivational aspect of the dashboards that Brad mentioned. So we have an hours work this week leaderboard, a tickets resolved this week leaderboard, and then a last 30 days worth of survey responses. So again, it's always nice to see how you stack up against your peers. And this does a really nice job of not only keeping the focus on their work, but also letting them know how they stack up against their peers on a weekly and or monthly basis. So I think Brad's done a really good job of splitting this data up. These dashboards are not too busy. He's really he's leveraging color thresholds really well to, I think, make all this information really clearly identifiable. So this is why I wanted to highlight this dashboard on our first dashboard of the month. Most of these metrics are either on your account by default or just require some slight filtering to get to where we are now, and obviously adding some color pop to make this look a little bit more appealing throughout the displays in the office. So obviously, if you have any questions on these, feel free to reach out to us at success@brightgauge.com, and we'd be happy to help. But based off of these dashboards and the keys we have here, you should be able to recreate these whether you're on Dashboard or whether you're on ConnectWise or Autotask.